Well, good afternoon. Bob, thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you to the Canadian Club for this invitation to invite me to provide this address. I'm joined by many city staff, including our city manager, Art Zudema. Art, thank you for being here with your team. And I have to say that today is a very special day for me because I'm also joined by my parents. I'm joined by my dad, Brian, and my stepmom, Laurel. Can you stand up for a second? Thank you. Now, during the campaign, both my dad and Laurel were hardworking volunteers, and we joked an awful lot, and you can probably agree to this, that my dad probably could have been a stand-in for me in some situations. And I'm told that we look a little bit alike, but I think it might just have to do with the forehead. So it's been almost 6 months since the election, and this afternoon I'd like to spend some time speaking to you about our city and our future. I'd like to share with you a bit more about your new council and how we're approaching our roles as we work together for London. During the campaign, the message from Londoners was crystal clear. They were looking for three things from their city council. They were looking for stability, they were looking for focus, and they were looking for a plan that would move our city forward. And we are delivering on that plan. We are focused on many tasks at hand, and we have developed and approved a comprehensive strategic plan that focuses on 4 key areas: strengthening our community, building a sustainable city, leading in public service, and growing our economy. We've also approved our first budget, a budget that is responsible and a budget that is sustainable. Now we're pivoting to a multi-year budget process that will link directly to our 4-year strategic plan. It will allow us to both identify our priorities for this term and beyond and link them directly to the resources required to pay for them. So that's what we've been up to. But to start today's discussion, I want to share some realities facing us as a community moving forward. As some of you might know, I studied geography. I've always had an interest in things like population growth and demographics. I see this kind of information as an indicator of where we've been and as a predictor of where we're headed. So here are some issues that are reality for all of us in this community that can't be ignored. So first, we're faced with a declining population from a growth perspective and an aging population, not just in London, but across the province and across the country. We know that if our city is going to grow, we need to attract more newcomers. As a council and as a community, we need to look at our city through a different lens. Historically, our immigrant population has remained proportionally smaller than other areas across the province and other similar-sized cities right across Canada. And for London to grow, that is something that needs to change. A recent study that was commissioned by the city suggests that our population's slower growth rate could be an indicator of how welcoming or attractive our community might be to newcomers. We can do better. In line with this challenge, London also has a higher prevalence of low-income earners than the rest of the province, and we are second only to Windsor for having the highest per capita number of low-income individuals amongst cities across Ontario. Here's an example. In our city, more people under the age of 18 live in low-income households compared to other cities across the province. These challenges present real potential roadblocks for our economic growth and for our long-term plans. This is the reality that we live in: a higher prevalence of low-income earners, slow growth rate, declining population, and aging population. There's something else. Interestingly, compared to the province, Londoners have a higher level of education. More Londoners have attended post-secondary institutions than people living in other cities across the province. So, let's also take a look at our businesses in London. Business growth has particularly been driven by small businesses and by the self-employed individuals over the past 5 years. According to a survey commissioned by the Small Business Center in 2014, 39% of those questioned either have, had, or were planning to open a small business. Remarkably, small businesses, those having between 1 and 4 employees and having between and self-employed, continue to make up the majority of the city's business base. And this base grew at a comparatively higher rate than bigger businesses from 2008 to 2013. That said, much of the very recent hiring demand has been driven by the city's largest employers in the education sector, in the healthcare and life sciences sector, as well as the professional services sector. Combined, these sectors generate 9% of total job postings right across London in 2014. So this tells us a couple of things. It tells us that London's business base holds a combination of large and established employers, paired with a dynamic and growing culture of small business and an evolving entrepreneurial sector that's driving growth in both knowledge and service-based areas of our economy. I share this information with you today because I believe that in my role as your mayor, I must be aware of the realities that our city is facing, and we must all together face them head on. As a council, we need to think long term. We need to stay focused on improving outcomes so that we see a shift in some of these challenges. Status quo and old ideas will not guide our city forward. Collaborative approaches, evidence-based decision-making, and a focus on the long term are the ingredients for London's success. So next, I'd like to highlight some of the biggest ideas our city is thinking about today and provide you with an update on the action plan that your council has developed to bring these ideas to life. I'll start with something that I believe to be an opportunity of a generation. It's called the London Plan. It's our draft official plan, and it comes before council this year for approval. The London Plan will guide how we grow. It's about building a better city, not just for the next 4 years, but for the next 20 years, not just for us, but for our children and for our grandchildren. This is important. The last time Londoners embarked on a process like this was 1989. The time before that was 1971. The draft London Plan is the result of a public engagement initiative which was, by all counts, the largest official plan consultation ever undertaken in Canada. The draft was released last year so that the public, so that our partners in the development industry, our business and community leaders, and our other levels of government could review it and respond to our main questions. Did we hear you? Is this plan hitting the mark? And that mark needs to be a plan that respects and balances our past with exciting new directions that address fundamental changes that we must face moving forward. It all culminates in a brave vision for London in 2035. It reads like this: London, exciting, exceptional, connected. There are key themes included in this plan. One, for example, is fighting congestion and providing better mobility choices, balancing our outward growth with agricultural, natural, and heritage conservation, and regeneration of built-up areas in London, including our core, growing more inward and more upward as a community than ever before. The plan is clearly a rethink for our city, and unlike past documents in other cities, it's written in plain language, making it readable and making it understandable not just for planners and not just for lawyers, but for all Londoners. The next draft of the London Plan will be released at the end of June, and the final version will be before council for approval by year's end. It's important to note that the foundation of the plan is rapid transit. In fact, without rapid transit, there is no London Plan. It's how we're going to build a better London for tomorrow. Our rapid transit initiative is called SHIFT because London needs a shift in thinking. It's about fighting congestion. It's about getting to work. It's about running errands. It's about getting to appointments on time. It's about getting across the city faster. It's all about creating a transit system that moves Londoners of all ages quickly and efficiently, and it's about thinking long term. SHIFT is a conversation with Londoners that will define where rapid transit will go, what it will look like, and how it will be delivered. Because today, many Londoners are frustrated by delays in traffic. Congestion hurts our economy. Congestion hurts our public safety, our quality of life, and our environment, and we can do better. With an estimated 77,000 more people expected to move to London in the next 20 years, implementing rapid transit is a vital part of ensuring this continues to be a connected and livable city. And we've already started talking to Londoners about Shift, and discussions are going to continue throughout the year. Our focus over the next weeks and months is going to be defining the routes that rapid transit will travel to get Londoners quickly from point A to point B, to double the number of transit riders, to help take cars off the road, and to ensure that we are a more sustainable city. Investing in transit isn't just a transportation strategy, it's an economic strategy, and it's a city building strategy. Rapid transit will free up lane kilometers of roads for those who choose to drive their cars or for those who are moving goods to market. It does all this while improving air quality and reducing carbon emissions. The Shift team has participated in more than 30 events and talked to over 5,000 Londoners to date. They're constantly engaging with Londoners and are looking to engage with even more. In fact, they're here today. You can see the booth at the back, so please take some time to provide your feedback as well. Shift is one of the very important pieces in a bigger transportation puzzle. It's combined with our transportation master plan, our cycling master plan, and Ontario's plan to build high-speed rail. We can transform how we move in London and across the province for generations to come. So, speaking of high-speed rail, we're working with the provincial government on their environmental assessment right now for this game-changing service that will connect London to Pearson's Airport and to Toronto's downtown core. This express service will dramatically change how people in the region live and how people in the region do business. Imagine linking our downtown to Toronto's and Toronto's to ours in no time. Effectively, we're moving our two cities closer together, and that's truly remarkable. Our downtown is important for so many reasons. It's our calling card to the world. Downtown represents just 0.2% of the geographic space that makes up London, but it accounts for over 4% of all property taxes collected. When our downtown grows, our entire city benefits. And this brings us to another big idea, and that's transforming our downtown. I'm extremely pleased that Council recently approved an environmental assessment for the groundbreaking first part of the downtown plan. It's called the Dundas Place Flex Street, what we will call eventually Dundas Place. This investment means that we can start the planning process to turn the 4-block stretch of Dundas from the Thames River up to Wellington Street into a curb-free, flexible street. It will be able to transform easily from traditional vehicle traffic during the business day to a pedestrian-only space on evenings and on weekends. Dundas Place will be connected to the London Community Foundation's Back to the River project. We're working with the LFC to launch the design competition later this spring. And in time, our riverfront will become a place where you can go and have a cup of coffee with friends, where you can go for a paddle or take a stroll along a boardwalk with your loved ones. It will be a source of pride for all Londoners and a destination of choice. Dundas Place and the Back to the River project are going to attract residents and visitors to our downtown core, one of our cultural corridors identified in the city's cultural prosperity plan. The plan is clear that we can grow the cultural sector, and in doing so, we will not only improve our quality of life, we will also create jobs and economic benefit. Places like the downtown, the Old East Village, Richmond Row, and other distinct neighborhoods are all cultural corridors that support our economy. It's Council's job to play a role in fostering the conditions for them to grow. So let's talk about another building block of a vibrant and growing city. I spoke earlier of our economic realities and just how important our small businesses and our startups are as we move our city forward. They are indeed the backbone of our economy. London is a city where entrepreneurs are taking their ideas and making them a reality. We've seen some incredible success stories like On the Move Organics, Voices.com, Big Viking Games, Race Roster, and so many others. Together, we need to make it clear that this is a community that supports the entrepreneurial drive. London has demonstrated this time and time again. I know I was vocal about this, and I was so pleased to see the reaction and the outpouring of support for a local microbrewery called Forked River just last week. After the community came together in support of this local business, the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario came back to Forked River and are now looking into the issue to find a solution. If a small business like this wants to grow, we need to be with them every step of the way. Now, our digital creative sector is also experiencing phenomenal and continuous growth. From digital agencies to video game developers, the sector has been built on the shoulders of brave entrepreneurs who came before them. And the next generation of entrepreneurs will need access to fast, reliable internet. It's critical infrastructure that supports creativity and collaboration. So the city, along with the LEDC in downtown London, have taken immediate steps to provide high-speed fiber in our downtown core. This strategy focuses on building a connected city. This strategy focuses on developing what we call the Last Mile Project. It was recently approved by Council and it will provide qualifying businesses with access to high-speed fiber optic internet service. This will help us grow the existing business cluster in our core. It will also make our city more attractive to these data-intensive digital technology industries, and it will repurpose some of our beautiful heritage buildings that you can find downtown. Last week, I traveled to Kitchener-Waterloo with 2 councillors and a small team of staff to learn about their tech hub. It's called Communitech. It's a world-leading collaboration and research center. Communitech brings together key players from startups to global brands like Google, BlackBerry, Canadian Tire, and Deloitte, and many others, as well as government agencies, academic institutions, and incubators. It's all under one roof. And what we saw was an outstanding environment for innovation and economic development. We saw businesses growing and employing more people. We saw young people excited about their future. We found some best practices that we look forward to bringing to London. We want our tech entrepreneurs to continue to call London home. London has great educational institutions giving companies access to what is a never-ending pipeline of talent. And we're working hard to keep them in London so we can continue to celebrate their success together. I believe that learning best practices from different cities is the key for us to become a more vibrant and a more efficient city. That's why we took a small team to Fredericton, New Brunswick a few weeks ago to observe a world-renowned cost-saving program called Lean Six Sigma in operation. Lean Six Sigma is an initiative that includes steps and activities to eliminate waste and improve efficiencies. It's used by many private sector companies, including 3M Canada, that's headquartered right here in London. Above all, it's a way to add value for the client, or in a municipality's situation, for the citizen. Fredericton is one of the first municipalities to implement these lean strategies, and they have shaved millions from their budget base just based on these principles. And I believe that in London, we can do the same. So as a municipality, we're improving how we interact with small and large businesses that call London home. We've been working hard on a program called Service London, which essentially strengthens the relationship between the municipality and the community that it serves. Service London was created in 2011, and since taking office, Council has been focused on moving this initiative forward. Our aim is to make service simple, to make service seamless, personalized, and accountable. Whether it's online, whether it's on the phone or in person, we're striving to provide the highest levels of service to all Londoners. And within the past 9 months, we launched Service London Business to improve the interactions between the local businesses and City Hall. Businesses now have a single contact, what's called a business connector, that will help them navigate our processes to get them back to the boardroom, back to the workshop, back to the hair salon, or the restaurant kitchen as quickly as possible. And we're also extending our efforts to ensure better economic results for our city. We're working on our first ever community-wide economic roadmap. In recent economic development reviews provided to Council, it was noted that our businesses, our local agencies, our institutions, and the city were working reasonably well together, but there was no overarching, on-purpose, coordinated plan to get us focused on the same priorities. So to build this plan, we're working with partners from the private sector, partners from the London Economic Development Corporation, the Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Centre, Tech Alliance, and many others. This initiative will embrace a community-wide focus, and it will guide decision-making for the city over the long term by consulting with business and community leaders, by aligning plans, and by identifying priorities, as well as the roles and responsibilities for the city and for its community partners. I expect to see real, measurable, valuable results from this project. So these are just some of the projects that your new City Council is tackling, and we're just getting started. You know, I should also talk for a moment about tourism here in London. It's an essential economic engine as well. The Conference Board of Canada estimates that tourism spending in London in 2013 generated in excess of $630 million of direct economic activity, and our city was host to over 4.5 million visitors, which includes almost 2 million visitors who stayed overnight. That's nearly 7,400 jobs that were supported in our community based on tourism. So as an example, many say that our hotel sector is a reliable barometer on economic growth or contraction. It's a canary in the coal mine, if you will. The sector, including this hotel, keep in mind, has recently invested approximately $50 million to upgrade their facilities to sustain existing and future operational viability. They, like us, are confident in London's future and will play a key role in attracting our future events and convention business to this great community. So attracting people to London is important, but so is showcasing our region and our other communities. Together with our partners from the London Chamber of Commerce, I've been working with Mayor Mike Bradley and the Sarnia-Lambton Chamber on a program that will bring more private sector exports to markets like Brazil, Mexico, and China. It's through a program that's run by the Chamber called the Global Business Opportunity Committee. And our long-term goal is to expand the partnership to other communities, including those along the 401-402 corridor. I'm confident that this private sector-led initiative will bring new investments to the region. It's about having a larger vision. It's about having a vision that lives in Canadian cities, and it's a vision in which London plays a key role. Jane Jacobs, the famous city builder and activist, once said that dull cities contain the seeds of their own destruction. She also said that lively, diverse, intense cities contain the seeds of their own regeneration. And London and many other Canadian cities contain those seeds of regeneration. You can see this everywhere. But what Canadian cities need to realize is that their full potential is a real partnership with all levels of government. A few months ago, I had an opportunity to meet with my peers at the Big City Mayors Caucus, it's called. That's the mayors of Canada's 21 largest cities. We're the 11th. As mayors represent cities from very different regions across the country, but we share a vision of increased job creation, a vision of increased economic activity, livable communities, and a vision of a good quality of life for our residents. Today, Canada is an urban country. In this province alone, 67% of the population live in the largest urban centers. Cities are where we assemble that critical mass of entrepreneurs, researchers, creatives, skilled workers, knowledge workers, professionals, and community leaders, a whole range of ingenuity, imagination, and skill that brings new ideas to life, new economies to fruition, and new jobs to our next generation. Simply put, our cities are the engines driving the national economy. And in London, you'll see innovation in advanced manufacturing, in healthcare and life sciences, in digital media, in food processing, and more. Regionally, London is a leader in a number of sectors. In fact, when global companies are looking to plant their roots in Canada, they're choosing London. Our city is home to international companies and research centers. London is becoming a well-known investment site for expanding companies from around the world. And some of the best examples can be found in our regional agriculture and food processing sector. London is blessed to be both a city of innovation as well as an innovative agricultural center. Food processing companies setting up in London have access to so many raw materials, benefiting from operating in this breadbasket as well as benefiting from a water system that is supplied by 2 Great Lakes. That combination of big city, big rural makes London unique, and it should be seen as an important strength. To continue to attract and secure investments in all of our economic sectors, we need to have reliable infrastructure. City roads, bridges, sewage and water treatment. These are the critical things to business and to community alike. The kinds of infrastructure renewal that London needs can't be done without a strong partnership with our provincial and our federal governments. London is looking forward to working with both levels of government to make a case of the need to invest in infrastructure so we can move people and goods more readily and with more flexibility. Housing affordability is another key issue that can't be ignored in London and in other communities across Canada. While there are vast differences across the country in market prices, the fact of the matter is that more and more people are finding home ownership less affordable. Others face precarious housing situations or homelessness. Initiatives to make housing affordable have slowly disappeared, and with hundreds of millions of dollars in expiring CMHC leases not being reinvested, some here in London, unless we do something differently, families will face increased instability in the years ahead. People often see affordable housing as a primarily social issue, but it's far more than that. Ensuring affordable housing is crucial to our lasting economic success. So London is adding its voice to the growing chorus of big city mayors, calling for a new focus on Ontario's and on Canada's future through its cities. It's time to recognize that cities are the drivers of jobs, of the economy, and that a stronger economy means a better quality of life for all Canadians. We're telling Ontarians and we're telling Canadians that political parties need to have a serious plan to work with cities, because a serious plan to work with cities means a serious plan for jobs and for economic development to move this great country forward. This is not about what cities need. It's about what the country needs. Governments must work together to strengthen the things they can control. Proven job creators like investments in transit, investments in infrastructure, and investments in housing. We're offering our hand as a partner with solutions to help solve the greatest challenges our province and our country faces. We must continue to seek an enhanced federal and provincial partnership with cities to build and drive the provincial and the national economy, to make our communities more livable and attractive for investment and for job creation. So I'm asking all of you to speak up for a new deal for cities, to ask all parties to recognize the important role of cities and to make the investments required to help all of Ontario and all of Canada succeed and prosper. So today we've discussed several facets of London's past, present, and future. And I have to say that over the course of the last 5.5 months, every single day, I can see Londoners feeling more confident about their future. I've felt that positive energy right across London. Over the past 6 months, your council has seen that positive change demonstrated in the ways that Londoners are speaking about our city. When we speak with our fellow Londoners, we hear about just how optimistic they're feeling. And I believe that change occurs when leaders collaborate with their teams, when we keep our minds open to what's new and to what's different, when we think big and when we aim higher. My approach, as many of you know, is to build consensus, to work with council, to promote discussion and engage our community. I believe in building others up so that success can be shared. I make this commitment to you. I will always be open to dialogue on moving our city forward and helping London realize its untapped potential. Today, our great city needs your ideas, your innovation, your ingenuity, and above all, your unconditional support. We're on the cusp of renewal and regeneration. We should feel optimistic about our future. So let's all do our part. Let's all work together to put London back on top. Thank you.